family business is here for, it'll be 55 years. If you ask me to look back now, I can't look back. I think it's time all of us change our ways. Just in learning. The business today is very different when Reva was there. But I think it was something that I continually want. Look, I also got
what are the two or let's say three things in the EV space which should have been done differently? One, by the government. Second, by the OEM. Third, by, let's say, public in general. What are one each?
Sure. That leads from customers, from the ecosystem building. At the end of the day, it's the end user. And that could be a person who's making, they make a living out of this in the commercial sector or in the passenger sector. I think we all have to be responsible. We all have to say, look, this is a long-term game. This is not a round A, B, C, D, right? And I think a lot of us, both in the incumbents, definitely incumbents also, but definitely in the startup world. And I'm going to tell you how many startups started and are not here. Look, startups will fail. That's part of the startup ecosystem. But I think whoever wants to come in this business, forget what happened, but going forward, be committed to it. I'll give you an example. If I sell you 1,000 vehicles and they're not working, that's wrong to you. That's wrong to your end users. That's wrong to everybody. And they need to make sure we have the financial capability to be able to give you that service. This product is not for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. It's going to be a 10-year product, at least a 5 to 7 year product. Right. So I think as an OEM, whether it's a 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler, 4-wheeler, we've got to be more customer focused. We have to work harder at it. And we've got to make sure we have, if I sell you vehicles in Kanyakumari, do I have the service system? Do I have financing? Do I have the ecosystem? Do I have the parts? Do I have everything to be able to do this? Otherwise, focus on areas. He's not gone anywhere across the country. I see somebody who's trying to do everything everywhere in order to just grab everything. And I think that is bad for customers. And if it's bad for customers, it's bad for our industry.
I could ask you, because this is about you, right? So anything else that I should have covered?
I think what honestly drives me is if you're all successful, I'm going to be happy about it. I'm going to be, I find the ecosystem where, I told you, I would have, if someone had the right mentality off the back, we could have combined forces and built a better, but people feel that you got to leave ego outside. I'll tell you what, every customer that left me, I've got them back. And I've got them back because I'll keep going back. I'll keep the ego at the door. I'll keep working at it. And, if you keep working at it, obviously you have to improve the flaws that you've made and go from there.
So you have inspired so many people in the EV space. I've been to some of the conferences where people have actually stood up in awe and their perception of EV changed after a couple of things that you spoke. And you would have been part of this. However, in the last question, we talked about the fact that people have failed others. Some of the things. That time, when you as a protagonist of the EV industry, don't you think, hey, listen, you could have, you're doing it, you could have played a role in making sure that these elements, you're doing it at OSM, Omega Seiki. But how could you have done it from an ecosystem perspective? Have you ever thought of it? Because there are very few people who can engage the ecosystem and represent the ecosystem. Very few. And I count you as one of them.
Thank you.
Could you have done something more?
Absolutely. Look, looking back, and I think that is something that I question myself every day. For me, there's nothing bigger than building the ecosystem. I think I should have, something that I saw on the battery side, something I saw internally also at OSM, at other players. The question is, and I'm not giving you an excuse. The continuous battle with policy changing has not made things easier, right? We continue to put money at work. Then we know that we are giving customers certain benefits, but then our money gets stuck. Then the supply quality gets stuck. So, part of it is also building up. When you grow up, you have to fall. If you don't fall as a
Wow.
child, as a human being, but I'm old enough. I've fallen enough times. I think if looking back, I had to do this. I worked with a large amount of startups. I think there are not a startup in the EV ecosystem that I haven't worked with. And I'll tell you what I've changed from that. I am now even more getting involved I reach out to people and say, come, you're building a new product, come work with my R&D. You don't need to just work with OSM. You can work with the entire ecosystem, whether it's battery, telemetrics, AI, service, marketing, digital media, whatever, right? I think coming back to it and working with logistic players, building new products, testing new products, taking feedback. Magenta gave us a lot of feedback on our vehicles. You were one of our first customers. And there was a lot of learning from that. And I think on the passenger side, I'll be honest with you, if you talk to Arun, Arun will tell you, Arun Vinayak Exponent, he tells me, he gives me feedback all the time. And I personally will take that feedback and I'll go back to the drawing board and we'll learn. But I think you asked me, yes, I could have been being a lot more gray hair. I should have been more, more aggressive with making sure. I'll tell you my situation. We put some fast charging batteries, which didn't work. And I think that was something that never, ever again am I putting up a product out there in the market until I'm convinced completely, that this is going to be 100% safe. It's going to give our customers satisfaction. It's going to give them the delight. I think everyone from our ecosystem, and I love to see what you said. You said, I'm going to do two. I'm sorry, I'm bringing some of our conversations earlier. You said, I've got two-wheelers. I have a plan for putting X. I'm going to pull back and look how it works. And I think that's all of us. And I think this is such a great learning. I love, that's a great thing that I learned from you today. But that is exactly how we all need to do. And I'll tell you, the investor community, the markets will value only those that have two things that are going to work towards EBITDA positive, PAT positive, but who are also going to get a long-term vision. And I think if you look in the ecosystem, anyone that is not doing this is gone and will be gone.
Yes.
And so I think that's a big learning. And I think the market is talking to us loud and clear. And I think, initially, when everybody was, in here, anything could work.
Right.
Now it won't. And I think you're seeing a consolidation happen.
Oh, it's absolutely.
Right? And since we started, you started, and we started. I'll give you this, how many logistic players there were there? Or players in your field?
Right.
And I would say 95% of them are gone.
This is where I want to take you. You talk about Omega Seiki with the passion that you talk about EV system. We want to know from your eyes, your lens, what's really happening in Omega Seiki. What? Let's say if someone were to ask you, and I'm meeting you for the first time, probably, what would you define Omega Seiki as? What is it?
Listen, I am going to be. I know I am going to be an OEM that is going to always lead on new technologies, and I think my track record shows that. Any new technology, any new player that is coming into this ecosystem, I'm your testing ground, right? So I'm going to reach out to all of those people that are out there, young men and women. If you want to be able to, you have an idea, you have a product, you think you need to test, you need to get validation, come to OSM. OSM is always going to be like this. Whether it's in battery tech, whether it's in charger tech, whether it's in motors, I am continuously working on that. And I think where I'm going to be, OSM is going to continually reinvent itself in terms of product differentiation, in terms of, and I think what I also want to move towards OSM is where people look at quality, safety, service. These are things that even you have raised multiple times, where TAT has to be going down, where, and I will only build, OSM will only build in areas where it has all of this, not just because, and so today, if somebody says open up a dealership or a service center where I don't have that sort of reach, I'm not going to do it. So I think OSM will be a company that is continually is an OEM in 3, 2, 4 EVs with drones. I think that, but I will tell you, my focus heavily is going to be on the 1 ton, the 3.5 ton, and I'm going to say another truck which we will showcase in the auto show.
which is what brings me to the next question, really, because what is the existing product profile that you have? It would be nice for people to know. They could go to your website and check, but it's always good to know what the founder thinks of his own product. That's the reason. What is the current product profile, and what is the future product profile that you're seeing? And at this point in time, it's only EVs, right?
It's only EVs. We've also, in the EVs, we've got all fixed fast charging, swap, 15-minute fast charging. It's on passenger, it's on car, in cargo, and now in passenger.
Right.
Passenger is going to be something very big. I'm very proud to say we've not launched, we've been in the process already putting vehicles. But yesterday, we came to Karnataka, and with Exponent, we have tied up very strongly with Arun, who I find is one of the most forward-thinking. I know you've met him multiple times. He's been at this show. He's out there. He's an ex-Ather man who knows we're going to put multiple products with Exponent Energy on 15-minute fast charging. He will also work with us in trucks. But I think really OSM Future Line is the one-ton truck, which is already in ICAD right now. Hopefully in the next couple of months, we will get it approved, hopefully very shortly. I think we are going to I'll make it first time announcement on your show. It will be a price of 8.5 lakhs. Wow. So we are going to play on price. We are going to play on 15-minute fast charging and fixed. We'll give both options. It'll be, a 50 kilometer speed. The gradients will match whatever you have. It'll give you we will do an intra-city product, right? We will give it at a price where it really makes sense, right? And I think that product is already very much coming. And then the 3.5 ton truck on fixed, fast charging and swap. And then there's a bigger truck that hopefully next year you will be able to see.
So the three-wheeler market, this is interesting. And thanks for being open on the show and telling people what the future plans are. But then one question. The three-wheeler market is kind of matured, it's steady. There will be movement, but what's happening in the four-wheeler EV market? And no one better than you for you to ask is, there's some kind of stagnancy in the four-wheeler market. When I say four-wheeler, not passenger, I'm talking about four-wheeler cargo. Where is this coming from, and why do you think what's going to solve this?
Yeah, I think you've been a big proponent of four-wheeler, and I know I saw you took the lead on that. You've always said that you wanted to do that. I think the TCO model does work, but you're right. There's a bit of a stagnancy because I think the problem is you need scale. And if you look at the truck market, it's very fragmented, 1 to 2 to 4 trucks people have in India right now. For somebody to get scale, for somebody to make it work, needs to have very large. I think the problem is not the product. I think the problem is that the logistic players are not sort of yet convinced. You are convinced, but I would say how many of the real logistic players? I mean, when I see the profile, and we're having a very open conversation on Tata Ace or Switch Mobility, I don't see many long-term incumbent players coming and saying, I picked up 400 vehicles of Tata Ace Electric or Switch Mobility. Right. Very few. I'm seeing startup, you're not a startup, but still a startup come up and say, I'm taking this. So I think there has to be a complete change, like we all did in three-wheelers. I think that's still lacking. And I think the four-wheeler market is a bit different. See, in the three-wheeler market, in the logistics market, everybody new came. Yeah, right. It was all new players.
All the new players.
And so that gave instant market, and then the TCO model worked, and it worked. I think, but there's the other side. Rome wasn't built in one day. What you are doing today, I'm hoping, will lead to a delivery on the electric, right? But I am seeing delivery even move to electric. So, see, the convincing, people are saying, is this truck going to work? Is this going to give me the service? Again, it comes back to the sort of, the issues we had with electric three-wheelers needs to be got over in the four-wheelers. And I think when, hopefully, there is Tata Ace, there is, Switch, there's ECA, OSM is coming up, there's going to be some others. I think you're going to see a move towards it. I also think there was no clarity on subsidy on e-trucks. So, right, the government, where I think the government needs to do more looking back, right? And I speak this to Niti Aayog. I always say this to Hanif ji, I say this to Sudhendu ji, I'm being completely open about everything, is we need to do more for e-trucks. He says we have a subsidy, but I think there had to be a little bit of an impetus and a push in, and I'm hoping when FAME 3 comes, and I think they need to think about this. They need to give incentive. They gave a PLI scheme. They need to give incentive for transportation companies, logistic companies, because I'll tell you 40% of the pollution comes from there. So I think it has to be a public-private, push. And I think the government, I'll tell you, even say, I'll make a bold statement. Cancel the subsidy on 2 and 3, give it on 4-wheelers. And I'll tell you, this is a very bold statement. A lot of people are going to hate me on this. Yeah. And all of my OEM friends are going to not like me on this. But I'm saying cancel it and put all of that money to work in 4-wheelers. And I'll tell you, Max, you'll see this change very fast. When you want to make something, when you build the ecosystem, put that injection of money for maybe 1 or 2 years, and you'll see it change.
But then, isn't this a case where the case is where subsidy is driving business rather than business driving business? Isn't that the case that happens?
I think, look, in India, and it's not, look, in 3-wheelers, honestly, I think we need subsidy. Okay. They gave it for a few years, and I think it's not needed anymore. So it's sort of, I'll give you the example. Do you have kids, Max? Yes. Okay. So how old is he?
He's 13.
13. So when he was 3 or 4, you need to pick him up. You need to give him a hand. It's the same thing like that, right? Now you don't. At 13, he gives you a hand. You don't need to give him a hand, right? So my point to you is that, I think there has to be, this is not like, because the market is changing. If you give, I'll tell you why. If you give that support, battery players, powertrain players, motor players will invest. Right now, people are scared, saying, if I invest, so the cost is high. You bring the cost down below 8 lakhs, I guarantee you everybody will change. Because in India, TCO model works. Right. So I'm saying, when you're giving a PLI scheme, or when you're giving some subsidy, listen, it is the Sahara. It is the support that you give to a child to start to build a future India or a future country. I think that is what I'm requesting. And I'm telling you, this will help. I'm 100% sure. We can talk about the numbers. We can see the data. We can look at it. And I think this needs to happen. And I think the industry as a whole needs to talk about this. I'm telling you, Hanif ji talks about it. He gets it. I'm telling you, Sudhendu ji gets it. Those guys are so smart and they understand the ecosystem. I just want a little bit more support. I'm not asking for support for 3 and 2. I'm saying take it away. Put it here. So if it's the same amount of money, and you'll see, I'm going to tell you the magic you will see. And 2 years later, we'll be putting products at a cheaper price. I'll tell you what, if you can get a Tata Ace at a 7 or 8 lakh price, I think you just go for it. And you and the rest of it. Now, we also need to learn from all of our mistakes. The charging infrastructure, the service centers, the parts need to be there. We've got to learn the lessons of the mistakes we all made, right? And I think this goes to everybody. Nobody can come and say, I have everything. I think even the incumbents failed on that. Now it's getting better. I'm seeing battery prices that were up sky high are now coming down. I mean, I was with the CATL guys, just 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. Price is down at $56 a kilo, which was 200 plus.
126 is, I was tracking it since 128.
It's now down that level, right? So I'm saying the system will make it work. But I think the government really, I'm shouting from the rooftops. We had a major event in front of 40 industrialists. I talked about it. People hear it. I really, look guys, I would reach out to them. Make a clear plan. And please, I request of you, don't make these 2 months plans. It really is difficult. Now we moved it to July. Now we moved it to September, right? It keeps too much unclarity, right? Just be clear what we're going to do. Because then the customer expects it.
Businesses thrive on certainty. Even if it's a bad certainty, but it's
just give it. I agree. And I think this is something that but I will tell you, the government gets it. You will see a change. We're all very, we want everything to happen quick. Rome wasn't built in one day, but I think we're definitely going to build. And with guys like you, leading for the front, I'm sure, I just want, when Magenta is successful or when all the other startups are successful, that's a victory for me. And that's a victory for OSM. Hopefully, if I build a decent product, if I give quality service, I'll be there. But I think that's for everybody. If Magenta cannot give that energy or that support or that product to its customers, then somebody else will. right? So it got to keep everybody on our toes.
Which brings me to the next question. Three-wheelers, Omega Seiki. Four-wheelers, Omega Seiki. What about two-wheelers? What's happening out there? And you may want to, you can choose to not say, but if there's something you want to talk about, what's happening.
I think in the two-wheelers we've been very, very clear. It's a very, very competitive market. Very competitive market. Up at the top, I don't see, and I'm making a very bold statement. I know I see startups raising money, and I think the top 5 slots are gone. Now it's a huge market,
Right.
but I'm not seeing the bottom guys go and sell 30, 40, 50,000. Ola's IPO is closed today. Really, really bravo to Bhavesh doing what he did. A lot of people don't like him, but I'll tell you what, he built a company from nothing and he built volume, right? But for us at OSM, I think we've just got a product approved. We're working with Sun Mobility. Sun is something that we work very closely. We are working with Swap. We are working on a product on 10-minute fast charging. And I'm very proud to say with Clean Electric. It's a startup that is doing some phenomenal work out of Pune. Akash-san is somebody who I respect, which is giving us now 70 speed and 130 kilometer on a single charge of 10 minutes. Then the range issue is over for logistics. I'm serious. OSM will continually work primarily on the logistics space, but I will work very much with a demand side entity. Do I believe that startups on two-wheelers, I think it's going to be very tough. I think there is room, but unless, and I'm saying the data clearly shows, unless you sell 30 to 40,000 a month, you're never going to make money. Let's be honestly, even the big boys who are putting 40,000, the burn is over $100 million. The numbers are showing. I'm a numbers guy. I was a finance guy. So I'm saying, unless we achieve that volume, it's going to be very tough. And the incumbents, Honda is coming, and the products that Honda make are off the charts. So I think, but look, it's a price-sensitive market. There's a huge market here. It's a 10 million market. We'll go even further. But I'd say, getting into this space, you got to really focus. There's a lot of landmines out there.
There's a lot of landmines. But I think this is one key line. There are a lot of landmines and you need to maneuver yourself. Coming to, this is where, from an entrepreneur perspective, Uday, you've built Omega Seiki over the last couple of years. Give me an instance when you felt, this is the best day of my life. Give me an instance at Omega Seiki where you felt, oh my God, what have I done?
Look, I think, Max, I've given everything for this company. Honestly, I've sacrificed everything. I'm being 100% transparent. My family, my relationships, everything. I've sacrificed everything.